suppose it's a little bit elephant in the room time, isn't it? Regarding Declan Rice scoring those goals last night for Arsenal in the Champions League quarter final against Real Madrid. There's been a fair amount of, I wouldn't say backlash on it, but there's definitely certain fans are irked by not so much Rice, the performance of Rice. It was amazing, really. Let's be honest. But I suppose the comments afterwards, because Rice came out afterwards and said, "Oh, it's the best moment of my career to date." Spoke to X on this earlier. I was doing a podcast with him and Martin Allen on the Patreon channel, and X spoke to Rice not too long after, actually, and basically queried about that comment just to sort of get a bit of clarity on it. And he didn't mean it apparently like it was the best moment of his career, i.e., better than winning the trophy of West Ham. He meant it more of like in terms of an individual accolade, in terms of his performance and things like that. That was his best moment. So, but that side, I mean, it's a real mixed bag, isn't it? With Rice, it's like I'm always like I love him still as a person. He's like personally, I've always really liked Declan. He always comes across so well. But it's still obviously painful seeing him in an Arsenal shirt. It's always going to be, I think. But I mean, that's always going to lessen over time and kind of move on from it, don't you? But yeah, I mean, the reality is that he was always going to go on to be this top level performer and top level player. The reality is that West Ham just couldn't match his ambitions. We can't provide what he wanted, and I still to this day don't think it was overall the right move for him. I think there was other clubs better suited. Man City would have been, certainly my preferred choice, and I think a lot of fans. So that was always the painful bit for Rice, isn't it? The fact he went to a London rival, went to Arsenal. I think that was the sort of bugbear for a lot of people. I don't think it was leaving West Ham. I think it was always inevitable that he would do so, knowing how ambitious he was. But look, can't take away from what he did last night. It was stunning goals, and a shame we didn't get to see do free kicks like that when he was at West Ham. But look, it's one of those things, isn't it? And good luck to the guy, because it was a stunning performance. It feels like it's that moment in his career. He's kind of arrived on that stage finally. I think the world now take real notice of him and go, my word. Obviously he's well known anyway, but yeah, when you do something like that on a stage like that in a Champions League game against a team like Real Madrid, it's a pretty big moment in your career, isn't it? So yeah, that's kind of hard to say on that, but yeah, just a bit disappointing when he comes. He's just got, I think, at times got to be a bit careful what he says. Remember that West Ham fans are watching him, and and I appreciate that he's got new fans now in terms of Arsenal, and that's totally understandable. And I think we've got to bear that in mind too, that is his club, and he's always gonna. That's where his loyalties lie now. I understand that, but yeah, as I say, when having spoke to X, he did make me think, okay, he didn't actually mean it as that it was better than winning the trophy, of course, with West Ham, but it was just obviously a big moment in his career. It is what it is, isn't it? And as I say, fair play to him. Fair play to him. It was absolutely stunning, wasn't it? Jesus Christ. Right, that's enough of that. Let's talk about West Ham. Let's talk about Liam Delap, which is pretty much for me. This feels like about bloody time that we get to start talking about Liam Delap, because it's one name that I've been struggling to not. I've struggled to not understand why we're not being linked with him. Why are we not pushing for Liam Delap? I mean, we know our firm interest in Jonathan David. We've got an update on that. I'll come to that in a second. But Liam Delap's the one that you're kind of thinking, why aren't we really that interested? There's a few reasons I feel like that way as well. Not only because it's a striker, a Premier League striker, and he's with a club that's about to get relegated. He's kind of like ticking boxes. And also the fact now that there is a release clause, we'll come to that in a sec, in his contract. But the fact that it feels like, for me, if you're Liam Delap, a club like West Ham's a really good move. I wouldn't. I'm not suggesting that's the best he can go to. We know it isn't. We know that Chelsea are very keen. We know that Liverpool are eyeing a move for him and things like that. So he's got bigger clubs that are interested. But looking at his career and looking and understanding the player from what I know so far, I mean, I'm no expert on him. I don't know enough about the guy, but from what I know of, I don't think he's a money-driven player that just wants the riches of a big club, and oh my god, I want to get to the Champions League. Although I can imagine one day that is his intention of his career, I feel like at the moment he's doing the right things. He's gone to the right clubs. I mean, Ipswich Town's been a good move for him, regardless of where they are currently in the Premier League. I feel like that sort of size club's been really good for him to get into the Premier League, be their main man, and just get to grips with the league and perform as well as he has. And it just makes me feel like the next club for him, that sort of stepping stone in terms of his career, that West Ham's a really good sized club for him. I mean, there's others as well. I mean, there's other clubs obviously similar size to us that I'm sure that would be suited for him. But when I look at the likes of Chelsea, especially Chelsea actually, but Liverpool as well, I'm not convinced they're great moves for him at this stage of his career. You know, he wants to be playing football. You don't want to be going to a club where you're surrounded by absolute superstars, and you're going to be further down the pecking order. You're going to take your chance when it comes, kind of thing. I feel like he needs to keep playing. That's the last thing he would want to do is stall his career. I mean, how many times over the years have we seen that from players that are growing and suddenly get that attention? All of a sudden, they make that move to a Man City, and then they just get forgotten. They just can't break into the side, and then before you know it, it's sort of like they get lost along the way. Their confidence dips, and then they have to then go down a few stages in terms of club stature to then rebuild themselves again. That's how I kind of look at him. I really hope that, from what I know of him, that he would consider something like West Ham. I think actually this wouldn't be a bad move for me. A more established club in the Premier League. I'm not saying we've done well recently. Of course, this has been a horrid season, but he would look at West Ham compared to, say, Ipswich and think, well, I've got a safer pair of hands here. This is the club that's likely to stay in the Premier League. And also, let's be honest, got ambitions to be doing far better than we have done. So the update from XWH employee is quite interesting regarding him. And I'm really, really pleased to hear this because, as I say, it's one that I've been waiting for, thinking, when are we going to show our interest? So the update is, it's not massive. It's not huge, concrete, massive upgrade. But the update is that Graham Potter has identified and made very clear that Liam Delap is a player he really likes. And we are exploring possibility of putting in a bid to the player and trying to convince him that West Ham would be a good move for him. Now, in terms of a release clause, there's a £40 million release clause in his contract. I believe that should Ipswich get relegated. He's too good for the Championship. He's not going to want to stay there. I think had they'd stayed up, it might have been worthwhile to stay there. He might well have just said, look, I don't need to move on at the moment. I'm playing my football when I'm developing. But I don't see how going down to the Championship would be a good move for him. And he's just not going to be good for his development. He needs to be tested in the Premier League regularly. And let's get it straight. I mean, if he comes to West Ham, he's coming in as the main man. And that's if we keep Fulkrug, which is, from his performances, I would certainly suggest would be wise for next season. Obviously, but Fulkrug's not a number one striker. He can't be our number one striker because he's just too injury prone. So you've got to look at it and think, God, imagine if we get someone like Delap and have Fulkrug up front. I mean, that'd be pretty exciting, wouldn't it, for next season? So, yeah, there's a 40 million release clause in his contract. So that takes away any kind of, bidding wars in terms of things like we can just go ahead and activate that and say, right, £40 million, right, let's speak to the player. And then it's a case, of course, of trying to convince him that West Ham's the right move for him. And that's a bit where I'm actually more confident, bizarrely, because and the only reason I say that is because of what we know from Jonathan David. Now, Jonathan David, of course, and that's talk's still going on. I'm going to in a sec. Jonathan David is a player that's massively linked with top clubs. We know that. The Arsenal have been interested in him. Manchester United, you've got Inter Milan, AC Milan, Barcelona, of course, would consider the front runners. Now, we understand as well that some of these clubs have pulled out, but West Ham have held talks with David, and considering all that interest elsewhere, apparently he's been really impressed by West Ham, and in particular what Graham Potter's had to say. So it's that sort of thing makes you think, well, if he can convince someone that's got Barcelona after him that, oh, do you know what, I like the sound of West Ham, then maybe West Ham are in with a shout with Delap, We really are. I think if they can get, if Graham Potter can sit down with him and go through what his plans are for the team, and which I still am hopeful that we are going to see a real a decent period under Potter, and I still really stand by that. It hasn't changed. I know that some have lost confidence in that in terms of how things are at the present and how things have unfolded to date under Potter, but I'm still not feeling that. Do you know what I mean? I appreciate things haven't been great, and there are times games you want to see a bit better, but I still am very much of the opinion of, we need a summer. Come on, he hasn't been here long, and I do think things have improved. Certainly greater than when we had Lopetegui in charge. And again, I know people will call me out and say, hang on a minute, if you look at the points ratio, Lopetegui, I think Potter has actually done worse. Points wise, yeah, but I think performance wise, I think we've been a little bit unlucky with certain games, actually. And I do feel that we look more solid. The players look more solid, look more organised. So I'm more hopeful. So it's down to the fact now West Ham are going to have to try to convince the player, because we are going to be seriously interested in him come the end of the season. So I think it's exciting, and I like the fact West Ham aren't hanging around. As we know, talks are being held with Jonathan David. So the update on Jonathan David is that the confidence is growing. That there's a real confidence now that Jonathan David does fancy West Ham. It's not as if we are the only club he fancies. So it's not whether the front runners, and there's still obviously an apprehension whether he will actually commit to come to West Ham. But apparently there is a growing confidence that no, their representatives are saying the right making the right noises. The players keen, impressed. I think they're not keen, impressed by what we've had to say. They're impressed by what we've laid down in terms of figures. I believe we've got him with a second offer as well to up that to try and outmuscle other teams there. So it could well be that we go for Delap and David. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, the finances are really tight, aren't they? As we understand it, I don't really believe that they are, to be honest. I feel like it's a little bit of a smokescreen, to be honest, in terms of we have to sell before we buy. That's not true. We just bloody bid money for John Duran in the summer, and we were after Banzuzi. That's a cock up as well, isn't it, Banzuzi? So he's going to Leipzig. Flipping hell, West Ham. And that was our terrible negotiations over January. That was through Karen Brady and these negotiations. Apparently, it was all very much a take it or leave it offer. Well, they said we'll leave it then, and they got a couple of £1 million more, and he's gone now to Leipzig. So really poor. So that's the bit that worries me. But when you come to Delap, you don't need to worry about the money. It's already set. £40 million. That gets you in. That gets you through the door in terms of getting the agreement made with the player. So, look, it's a case of West Ham convinced that. So if I'd actually feel, as I say, I'd feel quite confident if someone said to me, Graham Potter's going to meet Delap and try and talk him about West Ham. I think he would be quite impressed. And as I say, when you look at the club, I just think that would be a natural step for him. And then obviously, of course, it's then for us to then make him our number one guy and really try and push up this Premier League next season and compete for European places. And then he might say, well, do you know what? This is the place I want to stay. So look, that's where we are at the moment. It's still very early days, isn't it? I know we've only got 7 more games to the end of the season, and then obviously the summer kicks off with a transfer window. It's going to be a very busy summer for West Ham. We know that, absolutely no doubt about it. So it's but at this stage it's still very hard to sort of say really anything too concrete. But I like that we like it. I'm so pleased to hear finally West Ham are showing a real interest in Delap, because about bloody time that's the case. As I say, though, talks to Jonathan David going well. There's confidence going there. And we are hopeful now that we might be able to sort of sit down with Delap and hopefully convince him that West Ham's a place for him to be. But till we find out any more about that, obviously we'll provide more info. We're still chasing, by the way, the update on this wall. Still haven't heard back from him. It's now been 3 weeks. It's over 3 weeks, actually. So getting a little bit frustrated with that one. I've let them know on an email that we need a response, and they've said that they are going to. So once we get that in, I will let you know. So look, until the next time, which will be a video obviously coming up, we've got to do the Liverpool preview on Friday. Well, hopefully we'll have a bit more of a transfer update tomorrow, because there's a few more names that have been banded around that we're interested in, which are quite interesting. But until then, take care, and I'll speak soon. Come on, you ones.